Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Creature Commandos. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, tonally speaking, obviously it's from James Gunn, so it's like, hey, here's flavors of Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, but it also has like that Harley Quinn, the animated series, and Kite Man, hell yeah, tonally speaking. Also kind of gives me Doom Patrol vibes in a lot of ways too. So it's just interesting. Like all those things kind of are in the same wheelhouse, tonally speaking, but yeah. So obviously we start off with Cersei is leading a group known as, was it the Sons of Themyscira? I was like, Jesus. So, and it's because they had the promise of coming to Themyscira, and one of the guys is kind of like, oh yeah, like how sexist it is to have like an island only of women. What was that one guy? It was like, well, his name was like something like septic, like it was like septic facts over feelings or something like that. And he was just talking about how like, what was it, waterfalls, or was it something else? It's like something about Themyscira. It's like we can't, like, you know, it's kind of super messed up that men can't enjoy it or something like that. That's interesting that someone from Themyscira would be leading a group like that. But I mean, I guess it's the most. It's like, right, you find the group of people whom you could feel like you're the easiest to manipulate into, you know, behind your calls. I mean, you know, most likely once she takes over Themyscira, she's going to kill every single one of them. I'd assume so. But it's also kind of neat to think about where it's like, okay, so Themyscira, at least in this continuity, is still considered a fabled thing. It's not like it's a known commodity like in like the Harley Quinn animated series where it's like, oh yeah, Themyscira is like a vacation spot, you know. So it's just kind of interesting to think about that. But also, once again, James Gunn kind of basically said, unless it's mentioned what's canon and what's not, it's just take canon as it comes. So it's like, yes. I saw the teaser for the show, but I did not see the full trailer. I did not remember that specific line of dialogue of like, once again, I knew that like it was like what Congress or whatever made it so that Waller couldn't use humans anymore, but I do not remember that slight dialogue bit of it's because your daughter put you on blast. So I was like, okay, season one, that part of season one finale of Peacemaker is still in place. Adebayo putting her mom on blast, so we're picking up in the aftermath of that. So, and obviously, Rick Flag. Junior did die. That's the thing. It does seem like Senior doesn't know how that Junior died by Peacemaker's hand, which I think obviously season 2 of Peacemaker is going to touch on that. But obviously it's like that was also him following orders from Waller, but also at the same time, Waller never gave him express orders to do that. She could always have deniability of like, no, that was Peacemaker freestyling, so that was on him. So, you know. Anyway, we're continuing with this, and once again, this is post parts of Suicide Squad where Starro did happen. Once again, a lot of the Suicide Squad happened. Even Weasel going there, almost dying, and I love that. That's Waller's reason for bringing him on this operation, where it's like, well, he's one of the few people that survived. Because we'll probably never get a definitive answer on what, well, maybe until later in canon, what happened to the rest of the squad. I don't think that's implying like, I think it's like she said specifically like he's one of the survivors. I don't think she said he was the only survivor. So like Bloodsport, Harley, obviously Peacemaker's still alive, Ratcatcher 2 is alive. I'm trying to think like who survived. Oh, and King Shark are all alive, but we'll kind of wait to see whether whether that lines up canon wise, or do we go back and retroactively make it so like, no, the Suicide Squad from the Suicide Squad was actually a different squad. Once again, it depends on how Peacemaker handles the Justice League scene in particular as well. So, that's kind of a future issue, not really pertinent to the question, pertinent to where things are now, but it's like we'll kind of worry about those details later. So either way, the squad is put together of trying to go to this country where Cersei's trying to like take over it and do her thing. Once again, this is her mounting like an assault against Themyscira. I think it's like because this place has resources. Like, I actually don't remember what Cersei's reason for coming to this particular country was. I was like, I can't remember. Like, I know the reason why Waller wants to help out is because like this country's an ally, but it's also like, right, it has resources they don't know how to really properly use. So it's like, yeah, we're keeping them friendly so we can always come in here and snatch stuff up, because Waller's always looking for opportunities like that. It's interesting too, because like this having a revolving around a princess made me immediately think of the Suicide Squad anime, which was Suicide Squad Isekai. Which is a literal Suicide Squad isekai anime. But either way, and that revolved around a princess. Once again, that was a more mystical, like, hey, we're transported to a magical world, but still just interesting how that kind of revolves around a princess as well. Obviously, we don't really know enough about our Task Force M or Creature Commandos, other than like our brief introduction to them in this episode. The Bride, GI Robot, who's just, his shtick is just, hey, I killed a whole bunch of Nazis. He's looking for Nazis everywhere. I mean, him and Phosphorus are playing Jenga, and then like the Jenga pieces take on the form of like all he sees is a swastika, and he just starts blasting it, and all he talks about is like, oh yeah, I want to go and kill Nazis. Waller promised me we could go kill Nazis, and him and Nina are bonding on Nina. Be like, oh, if there's anyone I'd like to kill Nazis with, it would be you. He's like, oh, really? That's sweet. He's like, it's been like 75 years. I even love when he's like guarding the door. He's like, in so-and-so battle in 1944, I killed 40-some Nazis, and it just goes on and on. I didn't realize Sean Gunn was doing GI Robot. I think the rest of the cast I was aware of, but I think that was one I was like, oh, I thought was someone. I guess I knew Alan Tudyk was Phosphorus, but I guess in my head, for whatever reason, I thought he was also GI Robot. But no, either way, tangents and all that aside, every squad's got to kind of have their heart character, and it feels like Nina kind of fills that role, kind of how like Ratcatcher 2 kind of filled that role in like the second Suicide Squad movie. I'm trying to think, like, who would you make the argument as the one who kind of fills the heart role in the first Suicide Squad? It's been a hot minute since I've seen it, so either way, it's just because she's the one that is most normal, and kind of like the relationship, it seems like maybe we're setting up Nina to, well, she didn't have too many interactions with Rick, but she's meant to be the one that kind of like able to kind of grab everyone and keep them like in. But for the most part, I'm like, we'll see whether or not she ends up having the same relationship that like Bloodsport and Ratcatcher ended up having. So once again, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, like we get introduced to like the princess of this country, and it's just like, was it Princess Alana, I believe, and how she's so beautiful. Whereas like obviously a lot of heavy inbreeding, it seems like, or you know, maybe royal families and all that, right? So I also love like just not even explaining why the people in her bodyguards or her guards are just like souped up in like high tech like armor, like they're kind of like knights, but like 21st century knights with tech and stuff. Also, like, because they were like, oh, we joke like the Jamie Kennedy experiment. I was like, it's interesting timing, because I'm like, it's unrelated, but it's still under the DC umbrella. But like, this is the second DC property recently that's referenced Jamie Kennedy, which I think is so interesting. I was about to say, I'm like, well, you could have also gone with Punk'd, but I was like, well, I was wondering, is that because like, well, Ashton's kind of on some people's list, you know, that was like, I don't know. And on the list of just kind of like celebrities people kind of don't fuck with right now. So I'm like, is that the reason why? Like I said, because it was like 2 or 3 times in Superman and Lois that Jamie Kennedy's name got dropped in, like specifically season 4, episode 9. So it's like the penultimate episode. So I'm like, I kept noticing, I was like, why is Jamie Kennedy specifically? No, not shitting on Jamie Kennedy. It's just, I'm just wondering, I'm like, why? That felt so specific that I was like, is someone on this show like have connections to Jamie Kennedy or whatever? So that's why I was just, the timing's just interesting. Like, oh, it's just another DC thing that referenced Jamie Kennedy. It's like, that's fascinating. I wonder, are we ever going to follow up on the whole element of really quick. I'm thinking about it because like the princess and Rick Flag Sr., whose middle name is Bill, and it's like, wait, not William? It's like, whose middle name is Bill? It's like, mine is. But yeah, like the princess and him are hitting it off because he talks about, his son. But he also talked about his marriage. He was like, yeah, we were like 18 when we got pregnant. And didn't really talk about her much, but I wonder, is she going to be someone significant? Probably not. Not every character has to be someone of significance, but I'm wondering, is that something we'll ever kind of dabble with later down the road? Once again, like a Peacemaker season 2, whether it's like like we'll touch on Rick Flag Sr.'s ex or whatnot, post everything. Because they, at least timeline-wise, put it that at least the events of the Suicide Squad happened 2 years ago. I don't remember what the time frame between the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker was. I want to say like it might have been a couple months. They came out like a couple months from each other in real life, but like the events wise, I feel like it was a couple months in between, but I could be mistaken. So Princess also made it clear that she's like, oh yeah, I'm into older men. And I thought she was trying to, like, I don't know if honeypot would be the right word, maybe, but I thought she was trying to trick Rick Flag Sr., but it might be a genuine situation, like kind of getting naked, making moves, him feeling uncomfortable about it. It's like, it kind of feels like a little bit of a conflict of interest type of thing, so he kind of turns her down. His reward for that is getting attacked by Phosphorus in the middle of the night because Phosphorus is trying to get the remote, which I was like, well, the detonator, which I'm like, well, Rick Flag Sr. made it seem like, right, you're stupid from coming after this because it's like, do you think this is the only one? It's like, well, you fought tooth and nail for it, kind of making it seem like it is the only one. Maybe that was my misunderstanding, but he made it seem like it wasn't the only device or whatever that could detonate the bombs in their heads, but it just still kind of seemed like I don't know about that. I even love Nina bringing up her issues with the whole thing because it's like, right, when one of them gets shocked, they all get shocked, which she's like, that's super messed up, especially when I don't do anything. And I think it's so cute how, like, soft-spoken she is, and once again, she seems to have, like, the best manners. Once again, we don't know enough about any of our characters to really know their circumstances. Once again, G.I. Robot seems to be pretty cut and dry, but, maybe he has his own circumstances, too, that we don't know about. The bride definitely made it clear that she had been here before when they were first arriving. She's like, wait, we're going here? They're like, have you been here before? And she kind of just like brushed it off. But she sneaks away and tries to go home. I love that she got money from the guard. And it's like, oh, give me rupees. He's like, no, we don't have rupees here. And she's like, I know. I was saying that to be like as like degrading and as offensive as possible. So, and it's like, oh well, and Nina tried to be like, oh, she was trying to say thank you. It was like, no, I wasn't. And it just like they take a cab and they show up at what is the bride's place, and Frankenstein gets called, which I'm curious to see how they handle that. Whether it's like, well, he's supposed to be Frankenstein's monster, but apparently he's just Frankenstein. So I'm wondering, did he like take Victor Frankenstein's name and just make it his own? Like, I'm the only Frankenstein? Because I'm assuming, like, because isn't that how that typically works with the bride? Is like, it wasn't. I know typically Frankenstein makes it for his monster. Like, he wants a bride for his monster, but I'm wondering, are we going to make it so that, like, no, it was, like, the monster is Frankenstein. Like, either he killed Victor and then assumed his name and then ended up making his bride. I don't know. I'm curious to see which way they go with that in this continuity. I mean, different versions, iterations of that story and stuff. So the DC version might go, not only just the DC version in general, but specifically this DC version might go very differently than a more traditional Frankenstein and bride situation. But either way, I also love, just for whatever reason, once again, feels like a Harley Quinn bit, that the lady who's calling Frankenstein, it had like, it's not even an animated photo because you wouldn't be able to probably wouldn't be able to tell who it is, but it's just a stock photo of Zac Efron. I'm like, what the fuck? Once again, that feels like a Harley Quinn bit. Also, like, what's up with Frankenstein just being on a boat surrounded by all these women, but now it's like, oh, my bride, she's back, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, interesting. So, what was your fallout? Like, why aren't you together? Like, stuff like that. Because he isn't part of the squad, but I wonder, does he get folded into the squad because of all of this, or what? Once again, just the first episode, a lot of setup. There was a second episode released, so I'm excited to jump into that afterwards to see where all this goes. I guess this Cersei thing is going to be like it's because I guess I was almost thinking it was probably might be something episodical. I should have figured there would be like an overarching story, just like a Harley Quinn or even a Kite Man. Hell yeah, like they do have their overarching stories, but like things can be there are episodical elements to it for the most part, but there is an overarching story across the season. So I guess the Cersei thing is the entire season. I was at first I was almost like, oh, is this just gonna be the first episode? Maybe it's about maybe this might have like episode blocked arcs. So like, oh, here's the first 2 episodes is one arc and so on and so forth. But it's probably like, no, it probably all relates to that overarching. Probably a lot of time will be spent like learning about these characters and their circumstances, and probably wondering who I am and how I got here type of situation. So it's going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.